What you're putting into your body right now may be silently cutting you off from something sacred, your divine connection. While most people eat without a second thought, there's a reason why you sometimes feel off afterward. Like your prayers are hitting a ceiling. Like your spiritual gifts show up, but only halfway. Not just by governance or corporations, but by forces that don't want you fully awake. Forces that understand how powerful you become once you truly align your physical body with your spiritual self. They've studied us. They've studied the chosen, and they've systematically designed systems including our food supply to keep us stuck in lower frequencies. This is based on years of spiritual research, first-hand testimony from chosen individuals around the world, and ancient wisdom passed down through generations. And the results, they're profound. People who followed this protocol have reported sudden prophetic dreams, restored gifts, not for me, but for you. That act will anchor this moment in your spiritual journey. It marks a shift, a sign to the universe that you are ready. The strange synchronicities, the dreams that feel more like messages than random images, the sense that you were born for something greater, it's all real. You've just been waiting for the pieces to come together, and now they are. But none of it was supernatural. It was natural. It was what happens when the human body is treated as the sacred vessel it was always meant to be. Ready to remember, ready to rise, ready to reclaim what's been stolen from you. Why you're drawn to stories of healers, prophets, or temples filled with light. It's your spiritual DNA remembering. That's not nostalgia, it's memory. Your soul has lived in power before. It remembers the taste of divine alignment, and it wants to return. At first it was subtle. Foods were ritually corrupted. Later, through science, these corruptions became systematic. Additives, preservatives, genetic modifications, they interfere with the dialogue between your spirit and your source. It's like trying to tune into a divine radio station, but all you get is static. In the next part, I'll take you deeper into what specific foods are doing to your energy field and what happens when you remove them. You'll understand why you felt off for so long and what you can do to reclaim your power, your clarity, and your divine mission. All of it was designed to interfere with your energetic system. She removed just 2 foods from her Digest 2 and in 2 weeks. She began receiving messages so vivid and undeniable she couldn't ignore them. But once he started eating in alignment with the Chosen One's code, he became spiritually untouchable. He developed what he calls an energetic armor. And now, he doesn't just protect himself, he transforms the energy of any room he walks into. She now leads others using those very gifts. Those who feel different, see deeper, hear more than others. And there's one thing they all have in common when they remove the foods that block them. Everything shifts. I am talking about people who couldn't manifest a thing suddenly stepping into a flow of miracles. People who used to be spiritually numb, experiencing visions, hearing divine instructions, and walking in their calling with boldness. What started as a spiritual war evolved into a bioenergetic one, and an overwhelming sense of spiritual clarity and strength. Breathe and feel the energy of these words. Let them wash over you. That sensation in your chest, that stirring in your spirit, that's not imagination. That's truth, recognizing truth. And you've probably blamed yourself. Maybe you thought you weren't doing enough. This is deep, sacred knowledge. And if you feel that pull inside, if something in you is already resonating with this message, then you already know it as true. You were led here for a reason. The timing is divine. Your awakening has already begun. When you start feeling bloated, tired, foggy, or disconnected for no reason, it's not just life, it's spiritual interference. Your body is signaling that something's not right, and once you learn to listen, everything changes. But what if the real problem is something you've been overlooking every single day? What if it's right there on your plate? That heavy feeling, that strange restlessness. You can't explain, it's not random. It's your body trying to tell you something. Long before our modern world, before processed foods and industrial agriculture, there were people just like you, spiritually awakened, energetically alive, deeply connected. These ancient chosen ones followed sacred dietary practices that preserved their divine energy. They weren't just spiritually gifted, they were physically aligned with the light. Their bodies were clean, attuned, and fully capable of channeling divine energy. You see, your body isn't just flesh and blood, it's a sacred vessel, a spiritual antenna. And when you re-chosen, when you someone who is meant to operate at a higher frequency, your body reacts differently. Foods that seem harmless to most people can become spiritual blockers for you. They distort your energy, they numb your intuition, and worst of all, they dampen your connection to your divine purpose. You might have noticed this already. You meditate, you pray, you do your spiritual work, but it still feels like something's holding you back. This truth has been hidden from us for generations. And no, this isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a spiritual reality. Let's get real. If you're someone with high spiritual sensitivity, your energy system picks up on more than just emotions. You feel the vibration of your surroundings, you absorb other people's energy, and yes, your body responds to food differently than most. Some foods act like an energetic anchor, they weigh you down. Others create static in your spiritual frequency, making it harder to hear from God, to receive intuitive insight, or even to feel grounded. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly which foods are causing the most damage. These aren't random guesses, but let me be clear. This isn't something you'll hear in a health book or from a new age guru. If this message is striking a chord within you, I want you to do something simple. Just type revelation in the comments. And while you're doing that, I want you to close your eyes for just a few seconds. The signs have been there all along. What I'm about to reveal next is part history, part mystery, and all truth. They weren't blessed by chance. They lived in harmony with their design, and that harmony produced miracles, healings, manifestations, prophetic insight. Over time, however, those who feared the power of the chosen began to act. You ever wonder why certain ancient traditions still speak to your soul, even if you've never studied them? I've spent over 20 years studying the patterns among the chosen. Let me tell you about Miriam. She was faithful. She meditated, prayed, fasted, but her intuition was always weak. She felt stuck or rough. He struggled with energy attacks, spiritual exhaustion. Simply being around certain people would drain him. This isn't magic. This is alignment. These foods, these hidden disruptors, don't just affect your body. They lower your frequency. They block your chakras. But once you clear the signal, the transformation is undeniable. And we're just getting started. Let's talk specifics. Because now that you understand the why, it's time to uncover the what. What are the foods that are silently sabotaging your spiritual potential? What's slipping past your awareness every day, dimming your light without you even realizing it? Let's start with something you've probably heard a lot about. But this isn't just about health risks or physical side effects. For the chosen ones, it goes much deeper. Sensitive individuals, those whose energy fields are naturally more open and receptive, report that after consuming foods with artificial additives, something strange happens to their aura. Using advanced tools like Kirlian photography, researchers have discovered that these additives don't affect everyone equally. That energy doesn't vanish when the animal dies. It stays. And when you consume that meat, you're not just taking in nutrients, you're absorbing the energy signature of that suffering. For spiritually attuned people, this can be devastating. Your body is a conduit for divine energy, and what you put into it either amplifies that connection or buries it. Most of what we call wheat today is nothing like the grains our ancestors consumed. It has been genetically altered so extensively that its energetic signature is no longer compatible with high vibrational body. This tiny organophone, called the seat of the soul, is vital for spiritual perception. When the elect remove gluten from their diets completely, many report a sudden reawakening of the pineal gland. Let's move on to dairy. Conventional dairy is another big one. The entire energy system slows down. Think of it like trying to breathe through a wet towel. Everything becomes laborious. Your energy feels heavy, dense. Your ability to absorb spiritual light is reduced, and your connection to divine guidance becomes spotty. Most people think of it as harmless, but when you're spiritually sensitive, it's anything but. These are the silent saboteurs. On the outside, they look normal, nothing unusual. They pass every food inspection, but on an energetic level, they're dangerous. The thymus gland, located near the heart and critical for your energetic immune system, is especially vulnerable. And when someone with a high spiritual sensitivity consumes them, the result is something called auric polarity inversion. When it's blocked, your defenses against energy vampires, psychic attacks, and low vibration influences are compromised. Because physically, it checks out, but energetically, it's toxic. And for the elect, who are already tuned into a higher signal, the effects are far more intense. But these foods reverse that spin. Suddenly, everything feels off, and vibrationally scrambled foods are removed from the diet. Something miraculous happens. your energy field begins to restore itself. The fog lifts, your spiritual channels open wide, divine messages begin to pour in, manifestations occur with speed, dreams become guidance, and the separation you once felt between yourself and God fades away. You're doing the same spiritual routines, but the results vanish. You feel disconnected, uninspired. Your manifestations stall. Your energy protection fails. You become more susceptible to fear, anxiety, and depression. Your shield weakens. These products are filled with antibiotics, synthetic hormones, and sourced from animals who've lived in constant stress. All of that carries energy, and when it enters your body, it creates what spiritual healers refer to as energetic mucus. They begin experiencing visions again. Their dreams become more vivid, more symbolic, and more meaningful. Spiritual communication becomes so strong that it often catches them off guard. They'll say things like, "I don't know how I knew that, I just knew." That's not a coincidence. That's clarity returning. When it's activated, dreams become prophetic. Intuition sharpens. Divine guidance flows clearly. But when it's compromised, everything gets muted. For the general population, the disturbance in their energy field is minimal. But for people like you four, the elect, it's drastic. For those with sensitive energetic systems, the effect is like dragging a heavy chain behind them all day. Everything feels harder. Meditation becomes difficult. Manifestation slows down. And worst of all, the inner voice, the one that's supposed to guide you, goes silent. Again, this isn't about judging people's diets or telling anyone what to eat. This is about understanding energy transfer. In as little as 21 days, the energy body begins to recalibrate. They feel love more deeply, not just for others, but for themselves. Compassion expands. Forgiveness becomes easier, and many begin to notice they can feel energy flowing through their hands, often for the first time. Healing abilities emerge. Divine connection feels less like a whisper and more like a conversation. Heart chakra activity increases dramatically. People report feeling waves of unconditional love for the first time in years. Some break down in tears, not from sadness, but from the sheer emotional release. It's as if a dam breaks open and all the spiritual flow that has been blocked finally returns. Their prayers become more potent, their visions intensify, and the fog lifts. The vibrational structure of your energy field takes a heavy hit. It's like your frequency is Energetic readers and seers have seen it. Dark, cloudy patches forming specifically around the third eye and crown chakra. These patches block the spiritual flow. Because when the chosen are fully online, when your gifts are activated and your alignment is intact, you are a force the world cannot ignore. It's a dense, sticky energy that clings to the forehead, blurring spiritual sight. People describe it as trying to see through frosted glass. Visions become murky, intuition weakens, and meditation feels less effective. You're still doing the spiritual work, but it's not landing. There's interference. That's why food has become a battleground. Guidance that would normally come through easily suddenly gets muffled, delayed, or completely shut off. And it doesn't stop there. These energetic disruptions can linger for up to 72 hours. That's 3 full days where your spiritual communication line is jammed, where downloads don't come through, and where divine protection feels distant. And yet, most people eat these foods every single day. It's no wonder the chosen feel confused, lost, or like they're running in circles spiritually. Even more concerning is what cutting-edge energy research is showing. That's not accidental. These compounds are designed to dull sensitivity. Now let us move on to one of the most spiritually overlooked disruptors. Meat from animals raised in suffering. When an animal lives in fear, anxiety, confinement, or pain, every moment of that existence imprints into the cellular structure of its body. The most common symptoms: blocked solar plexus, closed heart chakra, emotional numbness, an increase in self-doubt, fear, and confusion. But here's what happens when that kind of meat is removed. This isn't a coincidence. It's cause and effect. Now let's talk about something that hides in almost everything: modern grains, particularly wheat. Among the chosen, modern gluten produces what we call the third eye fog. And here's something few talk about. Modern gluten seems to directly impact the pineal gland. And gluten isn't just a physical issue, it's energetic. And it doesn't stop there. This etheric substance isn't visible to the eye, but for those who can see energy, it appears like a thick fog clinging to the chakras. But it gets worse. But the good news, once dairy is removed, the results are immediate. The heart chakra begins to open. People describe a sensation like light pouring in. Now let's talk about something science still refuses to acknowledge: vibrationally altered foods. These foods have undergone processes, sometimes chemical, sometimes technological, that completely scramble their natural energetic frequency. This is as serious as it sounds. Your energy field has a natural spinner flow that keeps you connected to divine frequency. And here's the scariest part. No one suspects the food, but here's the beautiful truth. When all 5 of these tortured meat, modern gluten, conventional dairy, you feel connected, whole, powerful. And this is just the beginning. So what actually happens when you remove these 5 spiritual blockers from your life? The short answer: everything changes. I'm not just talking about a few feel-good moments or the occasional boost of energy. I'm talking about a full alchemical transformation, a spiritual rebirth. Let's go deeper. The first thing most people report is an overwhelming sense of clarity. Not just mental clarity, but spiritual clarity, like suddenly the fog that's been hanging over your life lifts, and you can finally see the path ahead. Things that once felt confusing or uncertain now feel obvious. You just know. You begin to sense the energy of people before they even speak. You think of someone and they call. You have a vision and it happens. You set an intention and it manifests. Not because you're lucky, but because you're aligned. I was blocked. And that realization, it changes everything. You feel the vibe of a room the second you walk in. You can tell what food is good for you just by holding it in your hand. This isn't weird, it's what happens when your spirit is awake and unburdened. For years, she believed her third eye was closed. She couldn't visualize during meditation. She struggled with intuition. She thought maybe she just wasn't gifted that way. They knew that what you put into your body either opened the portal or closed it. Their diets were clean, aligned with nature, and sacred. They understood that each meal was an energetic transaction. That food was not just for fuel, but for frequency. But then, she cut out gluten and dairy for 3 weeks. That's it. Suddenly, her dreams came alive. She began journaling messages from spirit. You don't have to change everything overnight. Just take one step, one shift. And once you treat it like the sacred vessel it is, everything opens up. The veil thins. Heaven draws near. Pick one food that you know isn't serving your energy and let it go. Because once you clear the blockages, you need to know how to protect and maintain your new energetic frequency. Not from a place of fear, but from a place of reverence. And one night, during meditation, she had a vision so vivid, so powerful. She sobbed 4 hours, not from pain, but from relief. To embody divine frequency so powerfully that just by existing, you shift the atmosphere. But that can't happen if your vessel is cluttered. You can't pour light through a blocked channel. And that's why your physical choices matter more than ever. She'd finally reconnected. You know where to go, what to do, who to trust. That's not just mental sharpness, that's divine guidance coming back online. They becoming more and more common as the chosen begin to wake up and take their bodies seriously, not just as a tool for survival, but as a gateway to the divine. And then there's the connection. The right people begin to show up. Divine connections, soul family, teachers, partners, collaborators. They find you and it feels like coming home. Opportunities begin flowing in your direction, not forced, but natural. The more aligned you become, the more your energy impacts the people around you, your family, your friends, even strangers. People begin to feel peace just by being near you. You carry light. You anchor heaven on earth. You become a beacon. There's a quiet confidence that arises not from ego, but from alignment. You walk differently. You speak with more conviction. You listen more deeply, because you're no longer trying to figure it all out. You're simply following the guidance that is now flowing to you effortlessly. You have to clear the interference. You have to make space for the divine to dwell fully within you. You're no longer chasing. You're attracting. Because the universe recognizes you're ready. The divine communication line that felt blocked, staticky, or unreliable, no matter what he did, he couldn't protect his energy. When he finally removed vibrationally scrambled foods and low-vibe meat from his diet, something shifted within days. His sleep improved immediately. But more importantly, he said the heaviness lifted. That strange sense of something following him or watching him gone. He started feeling peace again, and soon after, his healing gifts returned. He is now serving others with strength and clarity. he had felt in over a decade. Some people wake up with solutions to problems, flashes of insight, or divine instructions. People describe feeling lighter, not just in weight, but in spirit. I've seen them over and over again in people around the world, people just like you, who felt stuck, disconnected, tired of trying all the spiritual practices and not getting results. But once they addressed what was happening in their body, what they were consuming, the floodgates opened. There's a buoyancy, a vibrancy that returns. Your body starts to feel like a vessel of light again, not something you're constantly trying to push or drag through the day. Energy returns. Chronic fatigue begins to vanish. The aches, the brain fog, the heaviness in the chest, they begin to lift. What? Because your energy centers are finally free to do what they were created to do. Flow. It's not rare. It's normal when your spiritual antennas are no longer jammed by toxic interference. Suddenly, it's clear. Crystal clear. It feels like you've finally found the right frequency, and everything, your prayers, your meditations, your intentions are reaching heaven without interference. Your higher self begins speaking louder. Angels, guides, and even God's presence feel nearer than ever before. That constant yearning for connection finally finds its answer. Dreams become technicolorive, symbolic, and prophetic. You start receiving messages while you sleep. But it's not just spiritual. The physical body responds to, and then comes the intuitive activation. Your gut instincts sharpen. You begin experiencing synchronicities with such frequency that it stops being surprising. And that alignment creates a magnetism. But the most important shift happens deep within. It's the moment when you realize, I was never broken. You stop fighting yourself. You stop doubting your path. You stop wondering if you're worthy. You just know. Now, I know some of this might sound almost too good to be true, but the stories are real. Let me tell you about Elijah. He was a deeply spiritual man, fasting, meditating, reading scripture, but he always felt like he was being spiritually attacked. Or take Lucia. These stories aren't rare. You see, the ancients understood this. They didn't separate food from spirituality. We've lost that, but we're remembering now. And once you remember, once your cells remember, there's no going back. And here is something else you need to know. This transformation isn't just for you. That's the real mission of the elect. We are living in a time of rapid spiritual acceleration. Portals are opening, frequencies are rising, and the chosen are being activated. But activation requires preparation. So let me ask you this. What's one thing you can start removing today? Because your body is a temple, not metaphorically, literally. It was designed to host divine power. And in the next part, I am going to guide you even deeper into the ancient practices and spiritual codes that support this transformation. This isn't about restriction, it's about revelation. And your revelation is unfolding right now. Now that you understand how food can either block or unlock your divine connection, let's go even deeper into the ancient wisdom and spiritual disciplines that were once common knowledge among the chosen. These weren't random habits, they were sacred codes, ways of living that aligned the body, mind, and spirit with the highest divine frequencies. Because here's the truth. Removing harmful foods is only one part of the equation. The next step is just as critical, learning how to protect and expand your spiritual energy once it starts flowing again. And that means bringing back practices that our ancestors lived by, our rituals that tuned them to the rhythms of the earth, the cosmos, and the spirit. In modern times, exercise is framed as something you have to do to stay fit, but the chosen understood movement differently. They saw it as energy work. Dance, walking, stretching, breath work. These weren't just for the body, they were how you moved stagnant energy out and let divine energy flow in. That's why some of your most powerful insights come when you're walking alone, or swaying to music, or breathing deeply under the sky. You're not just changing your diet, you're shifting your vibration. This is a practice I recommend to all the chosen who are stepping into this journey. As you wake, don't reach for your phone. Instead, put your hand over your heart and speak this. I am open to divine connection. Today I choose alignment. My body is a vessel of light. Then sit up, drink a full glass of blessed water, yes, water you've prayed over or simply spoken life into. End your day the way you started it, with intention. It's about presence. One aligned choice can shift everything. One intentional action can invite divine presence into your entire day. You'll see patterns in nature, messages and numbers, guidance and dreams. You'll feel the presence of spirit more tangibly. You'll begin to remember who you are, not just in theory, but in experience. Light a candle, Sit in silence, reflect, release anything that's not yours. You no longer question if you're on the right path, because the path will reveal itself, step by step, with each aligned action. You're not just healing yourself, you're restoring an entire divine bloodline. Speak this: I am protected, I am connected, I am divine. Then rest. Let your dreams carry you into deeper truth. Stand near a window, or better yet, outside, and let the morning sun touch your face. Breathe deeply. Feel your energy expand. And that means creating daily rituals that keep your field clean, your heart open, and your spirit tuned. By aligning not just their spirit, but their body, their mind, their energy, and their everyday actions with the frequency of heaven. You're no longer sleepwalking through life. You're choosing awareness. Your body was designed to move with spirit. When you do, your energy field expands. Move your body with intention, even if it's just a short walk in silence. Find moments to be still. Listen more. Talk less. Let your spirit rise above the noise. This is where the ancient path begins to reveal itself. The ancients spent time in silence, not because they were passive, but because they understood. The frequency of God often speaks in stillness. The noise of modern life, the phones, the traffic, the endless talking creates as energetic interference. It means you're not just here to meditate in silence, but to walk, to breathe, to taste, to bless, and to align every part of your daily life with your divine mission. Because your mission isn't separate from your life, is your life. But when you commit to regular moments of stillness, especially right after waking or before sleeping, your spiritual receptors become ultra-sensitive. You begin to hear the whisper beneath the noise. That's where divine guidance lives. Let's start with the body. Once you've cleared the energetic sludge, you must start treating your body like the divine instrument it is. The ancients didn't eat in a rush. They didn't multitask through meals. Eating was sacred. They blessed their food, gave thanks, and consumed with intention, because they knew food was frequency. When you prepare your food, consciously choosing high-vibe ingredients, blessing it with your energy, transform the meal into spiritual fuel. Every bite becomes a prayer. Every meal becomes a ceremony. One of the most powerful and overlooked practices is sun charging. The ancients didn't just see the sun as a source of light. They understood it as a spiritual transmitter. Not because you're louder, but because your energy speaks louder. You'll walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere without saying a word. People will say, "There's something different about you," and they won't know what it is, but you will. You'll know it's the light coming back into your vessel. You'll know it's alignment. Early morning sunlight, in particular, is filled with frequencies that recalibrate your internal clock, balance your hormones, and ignite the pineal gland. But it does something even deeper. It charges your aura. The chosen who expose their body, especially the forehead and chest, to the sun in the early morning often report visions, spontaneous downloads, and a deep sense of grounded connection with source. Water was another sacred element, but not just any water. The ancients preferred flowing water, rivers, springs, rain. Why? Because water holds memory. It absorbs intention, and when consumed or bathed in after prayer or affirmation, it becomes a vessel for spiritual transformation. That's why many traditions included water rituals. It wasn't symbolic, it was energetic cleansing. Your body is 70% water. When you begin blessing the water you drink, speaking life into it, you're not just you're harmonizing your entire system with divine energy. And then there's movement. Now let's talk about stillness. While movement opens the channels, stillness refines the signal, and food, once it's aligned, becomes part of the ritual. So what does this mean for you right now? It means your spiritual practice needs to include your physical habits. And when you start to live like this, people will notice. But this kind of lifestyle takes commitment. It requires breaking old habits, not just the ones around food, but the ones around stress, distraction, and let's talk about one of those rituals now: morning alignment. It starts before you even leave bed. After just 5 minutes of this, you've already told the universe and your body that today you're walking in power. And as your day unfolds, continue this practice. Pause before eating. Speak blessing into your meals. And at night, you might be thinking, this sounds like a lot, but I promise you, it's not about perfection. This is how the ancients lived. This is how the chosen rise. And the best part, you'll start to notice things that were once invisible. And from that place, your mission becomes clear. In the next part, we'll go deeper into how these energetic upgrades begin activating the dormant codes in your DNA, and what happens when your spiritual lineage begins to awaken through your body. There is a powerful truth you need to hear right now. When you heal your body and align your energy, you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for everyone who came before you and everyone who will come after you. You are the breaker of cycles, the rebuilder of altars, the restorer of the divine line. There are codes, dormant spiritual keys hidden deep within you that have been passed down through generations, waiting for someone to awaken them. And the moment you remove the blocks, the toxins, the spiritual static, those codes begin to activate. Because what you're doing is not simply personal transformation, it's spiritual lineage restoration. Because whether they realize it or not, they've been carrying the spiritual debt of their families, their cultures, even their nations. And now, by choosing alignment, they're transmuting that weight into light, into legacy. Within 2 weeks, she had a dream where she saw a line of women, all wearing white, walking through a river. One turned to her and said, "Thank you, we can rest now." The next morning, her body felt different, lighter, stronger, whole. The fatigue never came back. See, your DNA is more than biology. It carries the stories, traumas, gifts, and promises of your ancestors. This is what happens when the elect step into alignment. You are not just breaking habits, you are breaking generational curses. You are not just eating cleaner, you re-clearing pathways for divine energy to move through you and into the world. Your body, now free of interference, begins to vibrate at a frequency that unlocks divine inheritance. You start to access spiritual authority that was sealed off long ago. But in the spiritual realm, a curse can simply be an energetic pattern passed down, kept alive by repetition, generations of fear, generations of shame, generations of poverty, anger, addiction, limitation, silence, discipline over distraction. And I won't lie to you, it's not easy. But what you gain is so much greater than what you leave behind. You may feel a presence around you, not threatening, but guiding. You begin to speak with power, not just eloquence but authority. People listen differently. Your words carry weight. Why? Because you're not just speaking from your personality, you're speaking from your spirit, from your ancestors, from heaven. They'll see the clarity in your eyes, the peace in your steps, the joy in your spirit, and they'll start to wonder what changed. And maybe one day they'll ask you how to get there. And you'll remember this moment when you decided to honor your temple, when you stepped into alignment, when you said yes to your true self. You may be drawn to certain scriptures, symbols, or rituals without knowing why. These are not accidents. These are your spiritual senses waking up. Every clean choice, every intentional practice, every time you listen to your intuition instead of fear, you are rebuilding a sacred legacy. You may not even say anything, but your energy starts to do the work. This is how chosen ones walk, highly powerful, divinely backed, spiritually radiant. These things repeat until someone says, "It ends with me." They'll question your changes. They may mock your discipline. They'll say you're being too extreme or overthinking it. An opportunity start aligning with your divine mission when your energy field becomes clear and magnetic. But listen closely. They're not rejecting you. They're uncomfortable with your light, because your presence reminds them of what they've been avoiding, and that's okay. What seems like just a detox becomes a sacred purification. Doctors couldn't explain it. Her blood work was fine. Her scans were normal, but spiritually, she was carrying generations of pain. Her mother had died young. That's why the journey feels intense at times, because the old structures are crumbling. But as they fall, your spiritual DNA rises. And when that happens, new gifts begin to emerge. Her grandmother before that had endured immense suffering during war, and though she had never spoken of these things aloud, her body knew, her cells remembered. Others develop a healing touch, feeling energy flow through their hands. Some gain discernment so sharp they can walk into a room and feel what's unspoken. These aren't superpowers. They are ancient gifts, now active because the vessel is finally clean. You may cry without knowing why. You may feel exhausted and then suddenly full of energy. These are signs that your lineage is recalibrating itself through you. You are the vessel now healing, not only your soul but generations behind you. You may begin to feel emotions that aren't entirely yours. Grief that doesn't have a clear source. Sudden joy that rises from nowhere. Visions of places you've never been. knowing that you couldn't have learned in this life. That's your ancestral memory reactivating. That's your bloodline remembering its power, and it often starts with physical healing. This is why the chosen often feel the weight of responsibility. Let me give you an example. One woman I worked with, her name is Esther, had suffered from chronic fatigue for nearly a decade. When she began her alignment journey, removing the energetic block foods, blessing her water, spending time in silence, and something shifted. That's not a miracle. That's lineage restoration. And it happens when the elect finally say yes to the process. So if you're re-feeling this, if something in your spirit is stirring right, now understand this. You were chosen for this role before you were even born. And let's talk about that for a second. We've been trained to think of curses as spooky, supernatural things. That someone is you. And the moment you begin to align your energy, those old patterns start to lose their grip. Gifts you didn't know you had. You may begin to hear things, words of wisdom in stillness. Some begin to dream prophetically, seeing events before they happen. And let's not forget, none of this happens without choice. You must choose alignment over convenience, consciousness over comfort. When you activate your spiritual lineage, something else happens too. Your voice changes. Your presence becomes a portal. Others begin to awaken just by being around you. Their hearts soften, their minds open, and yes, you'll be misunderstood. Some won't get it. You were never called to blend in. You were called to rise. So let them talk. Let them watch, because soon they'll see the fruit. So if no one has told you yet, let me say it now. You are doing holy work, and there is more to come. Because in the next part, we'll explore how this inner transformation begins to shift your external reality, how your relationships, finances, you've already started the work. Now get ready to see the world around you change. When your internal world shifts, your external world follows. That's not just a nice idea, it's a spiritual law. The moment your energy field becomes clean, clear, and aligned, the universe begins to respond in kind. And for the chosen ones, that response happens fast. As your energy elevates, some connections will begin to feel off. It's not that people suddenly become bad or wrong, it's that the energetic compatibility changes. You now feel what you used to ignore. You can sense energy that drains you, even if it's hidden behind a smile. You detect passive aggression, spiritual envy, manipulation without a single word being spoken. And as uncomfortable as it can be, this sensitivity is a gift. It's your spirit protecting your space. Conversations that once flowed easily might now feel forced. People who used to feel close may start to feel distant because they're lazy, not because they're incapable, but because their energy was too weighed down to receive. Money is energy. It flows where there is clarity, confidence, and purpose. And when your energy field is clogged by food, by relationships, by turmeric, repels that flow, you might notice a strange discomfort in certain spaces or with certain groups. That's not you being judgmental, it's your spirit recognizing misalignment. You begin to see opportunities where, before, there were only obstacles. You attract resources, mentors, and support almost effortlessly. A chosen one starts clearing their vessel, aligning their habits, listening to divine guidance, and suddenly, they're led to launch something they've been sitting on for years. You don't have to beg for blessings or hustle for worth, not because it's perfect or expensive, but because it's intentional. The chosen understand that everything carries frequency. So when your home reflects peace, order, and sacredness, your spirit rests. And when your spirit rests, your power expands. You become magnetic. You become a beacon for what matches your frequency. It's about how you feel when you wake up. And people begin to notice, not because you're trying to be seen, but because your light cannot be hidden. How you move through your day, how you speak to yourself, how you treat your body, your money, your relationships. That's the real measure of spiritual maturity and a project, a business, a ministry, and it flows. Not because they have a fancy strategy, because once you rise, there will be forces that test your strength, but you won't be shaken. You'll be prepared. But because they're in alignment, they're not chasing, they're attracting. And more importantly, you stop sabotaging yourself. You stop underpricing your gifts. You stop hiding your voice. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. And things that once felt impossible begin to feel inevitable. Because once your vibrational signature rises, your surroundings can no longer stay the same. They have to shift to match the new frequency you're operating in. You are not late. You are not unqualified. Everything you've been through, every delay, every detour, every dark night was preparing you for this alignment. Nothing was wasted. And now that you're clearing the blocks, the speed at which things will shift might just surprise you. The clutter, the noise, the things you once tolerated, they start to feel heavy. You may be called to bring in elements that reflect your spiritual identity, sacred texts, natural elements, symbols that remind you of who you are. This is not decoration, it's energetic calibration. That's because your physical space is a reflection of your internal state. And when your internal world is rising, your outer world wants to match it. So what does that look like in real life? Let's start with relationships. And listen, this is where a lot of chosen ones start to panic. They think, am I pushing people away? Am I isolating myself? But what's actually happening is sacred separation. God is removing what cannot come with you to your next level. You're carrying divine frequency now. Your presence is an invitation to resand. Not everyone wants to. As your field clears, you begin to attract divine connections. People who see you not just your potential, but your purpose. Conversations that nourish your soul. Relationships built on truth, alignment, and mutual growth. These aren't just friendships, they're destiny links. And when you meet these people, you'll know. Your spirit will say, yes, this is my tribe. See, your energetic field has become more sensitive. Because here's the truth. Your energy is expensive. Not everyone can afford to be around you anymore. But don't let that discourage you. Because while some people fall away, others will rise to meet you. Now let's talk about something the spiritual community often avoids. Money. Yes, financial flow is spiritual. And for the chosen, it's often blocked not. But once you begin clearing yourself, the gates open. Ideas start to come created, aligned, divinely inspired ideas. And the moment you honor your value, heaven responds. I've seen this time and time again. And that's the key. When you're aligned, you don't have to force what's yours. Now let's go even deeper. Your environment. Have you noticed that as you shift, your space starts to bother you? You may feel led to clean, to rearrange, to let go of items that hold old energy. Your space should support your vibration. It should feel like a sanctuary. This is what people miss about spiritual growth. It's not just about mystical experiences or mountaintop moments. It's about real-life transformation. Can you live what you believe? Can your actions match your awareness? Can your daily life reflect your divine identity? Because when it does, something incredible happens. Your mission begins to unfold naturally. You stop asking, what is my purpose? And you start living it. Your presence becomes your purpose. Your alignment becomes your answer. Your life becomes a message. And I want you to hear this. You are not behind. Because when you finally say yes to who you really are, heaven moves. Doors open. Paths reveal themselves. That's the power of alignment. And in the next part, we'll explore how to maintain and protect your energetic upgrades, how to guard your new frequency from subtle sabotage, psychic interference, and the old patterns that'll try to pull you back. Your glow up is sacred, and it's only just beginning. Now that your energy is rising and your alignment is beginning to transform every area of your life, you need to understand something crucial. This new frequency you've tapped into must be protected, because just as light attracts blessings, it can also draw resistance. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying it to prepare you. Whenever a chosen one begins to awaken, there's a shift not just in their physical world, but in the spiritual realm. It's like lighting a torch in the dark. You become visible to everything. It comes in the form of just one bite, just one indulgence, just one day off, one night back in that old cycle, one message from that person who drained you. And if you're not spiritually aware, you'll justify it. You'll say, I've been doing so well, I deserve a little break. The forces that once benefited from your spiritual sleep will notice the glow, and some of them will try to dim it. That's why spiritual warfare isn't always loud. It can be subtle, sneaky, quiet, and the most common way it tries to return. Conversations, gossip, negative news, defeatist, thinking it doesn't matter if it's from people you love. If the words are sowing seeds of doubt, limitation, or fear, you need to limit that access. Not out of arrogance, but out of protection. Your calling requires clarity. You don't have time to absorb every vibration that others project through old patterns. When you speak doubt, fear, or self-judgment, your body hears it. What once felt like sacrifice starts to feel like sacred preservation. You'll crave high-frequency things. You'll long for purity, silence, depth, beauty. You'll lose your appetite for drama, chaos, and false connections. Not because you're better than anyone, but because your spirit is finally at peace. Just like you wouldn't go days without brushing your teeth or showering, you can't go days without clearing your energy. Heaven is with you. Your guides, your ancestors, your angels' divine forces surround you. They celebrate your every aligned decision, and your presence become a blueprint for others who are waking up behind you. Because once you've cleared your path, your next calling is to illuminate the path for others. They send signs, confirmations, and protection when you walk in obedience. But they cannot override your free will. You must choose to protect your glow. You must guard your gates. You must say no to what no longer serves your mission. You are a light in this world, and light must be tended to, fed, guarded, honored. At the end of the day, ask yourself, what made me feel heavy today? Not with fear, but with reverence. Every aligned decision adds oil to that lamp. Every compromise drains it. What gave me life? Where did I compromise my frequency? Where did I honor it? That awareness alone can prevent you from falling back into patterns that once held you hostage. Because when you stay spiritually aligned over time, you become a living portal for heaven's agenda. You walk into rooms and things shift. You speak and people listen. You move and doors open. Not because of manipulation or strategy, but because your frequency is undeniable. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Light a candle, breathe deeply, play high-frequency music, pray with intention. If you feel off, don't ignore it. Your cells respond. Your frequency lowers. But when you speak life, even in moments of uncertainty, your spirit rises to match your declaration. Speak where you're going, not where you've been. Use your words to build, not break, to bless, not curse, to command the energy around you. The moment your vibration starts rising, the enemy doesn't show up in obvious ways. You must know your triggers. You must understand your patterns. You must guard your gates, your eyes, your mouth, your spirit, to let your guard down, to forget who you are. You've felt the difference between a heavy and a high vibration. You've tasted spiritual clarity. You know what divine alignment feels like. So when something tries to pull you back, it will no longer feel normal. It will feel like spiritual suffocation, like trying to breathe underwater. That discomfort, that's your soul saying, we don't live there anymore. But that's the trap. The enemy doesn't care if you meditate in the morning, read scripture, or speak affirmations as long as you stay addicted to the things that keep your frequency low. Because as long as you keep dipping into the old energy, you're not a threat. You're a light with a flicker. But here's the truth. You didn't come this far to flicker. You came to shine. And to protect that shine, you must become radically honest with yourself. Let's break this down. Every show, every video, every scroll on your phone, it all carries frequency. And some of what you consume might seem harmless, even entertaining, but underneath it's feeding fear, comparison, lust, or not. The chosen cannot afford to consume what disconnects them from their calling. If something makes your energy feel heavy afterward, trust that. That's your spirit saying this isn't for you anymore. Guarding your eyes means becoming aware of what you're watching. Guarding your ears means watching who and what you listen to. Guarding your mouth means being mindful of your words. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Guarding your spirit means making your spiritual hygiene as essential as your physical hygiene. One powerful practice is to do a daily energy audit. Because the truth is, old energies don't disappear just because you've leveled up. They wait for you to get tired. But the difference now is, you know better. And yes, it takes discipline to maintain this. But the beautiful thing is, the more consistent you are, the easier it becomes. And here's something else. You're not alone in this battle. Think of it like this. You've been given a lamp, a flame from the throne room itself. Your job is to keep it burning. And when your lamp is full, when your spirit is glowing, you'll become unstoppable. This is what the enemy fears. Not your talent, not your knowledge, but your consistency in the spirit. So yes, protect your glow. Not from a place of fear, but from a place of power. In the next part, we'll explore what it means to lead as a chosen one, how your journey, your alignment. You've done the inner work. You've cleared your field, reclaimed your body as a sacred vessel, protected your glow, and now something begins to shift even deeper. A quiet voice rises within, asking, what now? What am I supposed to do with this light? Your glow isn't just for you to enjoy in solitude. It's a torch, and torches are meant to light the way for others. Whether you realize it or not, someone is watching your journey. Someone is feeling your frequency. Someone is being quietly inspired just by your choice to stay aligned. And the answer is simple, but sacred: lead. Yet, in fact, the more you rise, the more the enemy may try to discourage you, distract you, make you question your authority. But this is the beautiful paradox. Every test you face becomes a lesson someone else needs. Speak when prompted, move when led, show up when called. You are not above anyone, but you are aware, you are awake. Speak life, not judgment. Ask more than you advise, pray more than you preach. Hold space, be the frequency. And that awareness carries responsibility, because people will feel safe with you. They will open up around you. They will confess their spiritual hunger, their confusion, their pain. Not because you asked, but because your presence gives permission. God will bring the people, the ones who need your exact frequency, the ones who recognize the path because they see your footprints. Every battle you overcome gives you the authority to walk someone else through their own. Every scar becomes a map. It happens in the unseen, in your prayers for others, in the energy you hold during chaos, in the way you walk through adversity without letting your frequency break. You don't always need recognition. Heaven sees, and heaven rewards. How do I heal? Why do I feel stuck? Why can't I connect with God? And you'll smile, not from arrogance, but from remembrance. Because you've been there, you'll say things like, "It's okay." You'll begin to affect people simply by being yourself. You won't need fancy language, just presence, just peace, just integrity. Here's where I started. Here's what helped me. And your words will carry authority because they come from alignment. I'm still figuring it out. I'm not perfect. But hear me clearly. Your imperfections are not disqualifications. They are proof of the process. Your healing has carved a frequency that is custom designed for someone else's awakening. When you speak from your experience, when you share what you've walked through, you activate others. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real, shaping generations, anchoring light into this world for those who haven't even been born yet. You're not just changing lives. You're changing to rise early when your flesh wants sleep, to be quiet when your ego wants to react. But this is where you find your greatest power. This is where you become unshakable. You don't have to have it all figured out. Don't dim your light to stay palatable. When spirit nudges you to say something, say it. Opportunities align, resources flow, protection surrounds you, not because of performance, but because of purpose. When you're called to share your story, do it. Your testimony carries power. There are people waiting for a word that only you can deliver. You just need to be a few steps ahead, a few levels clearer, a little more consistent in your glow. That's enough to change someone's life. You were never just meant to awaken for your own sake. God was pulling you back so He could shape your voice, refine your insight, burn off the ego. Because what you're carrying isn't just for you, it for the ones assigned to your light. This is the next level of the chosen one's path, becoming a guide. And I know what you may be thinking. I'm not qualified. Leadership in the spiritual realm isn't about titles or platforms. It's about alignment and presence. It's about being so rooted in your truth that others feel safe to step into theirs. It's about creating a frequency so strong, so authentic, that others remember their own light just by standing near yours. You become a lighthouse in a foggy world, and that doesn't mean you'll always feel strong. Think of the people who guided you when you were in the dark. Maybe it was a mentor, a voice on a video, a stranger who spoke a word at the right time. Maybe it was someone who never knew you were watching, and yet they shifted something in you. That's what you're becoming now. You don't need to force it. You don't need a stage. You just need to live in truth. And here's the key. Lead with humility, not hierarchy. Be gentle with them. Remember what it felt like when you were lost. And know this, leadership is not always visible. Sometimes your greatest impact is silent. But also don't be afraid to speak up when the time comes. Because your journey has a unique vibration, and sometimes your story will wake up people who didn't even know they were asleep. This is why chosen ones often feel isolated during their preparation seasons, and they're coming. You'll start to notice people gravitate toward you with the same questions you once asked. That's leadership, not control, not superiority, but embodied truth. And the more you live in truth, the more God will trust you with influence. And yes, leadership will stretch you. It will require you to go deeper, to stay aligned even when no one's watching, to stay in prayer when distractions call. Because leadership in the kingdom is not about building your own namites, about pointing people back to the name, the source, the light. And when you lead from that place, heaven backs you. You are here to lead the way, quietly, powerfully, authentically. And in the next part, we'll explore what happens when your leadership becomes legacy, when your spiritual impact begins to ripple beyond your lifetime. You may not fully realize it yet, but the decisions you're making today, the foods you're removing, the habits you're breaking, the energy you're protecting, the truth you're embodying, they're not just impacting your life, they're echoing far beyond it. You're creating legacy. True spiritual legacy is about frequency. It is about the vibration you anchor into the earth that continues resonating long after you're gone. It's about the lives you touch, the hearts you heal, the truth you transmit, and how those vibrations pass through time, waking up generations that follow. And legacy is not just about the physical things you leave behind. It's not about buildings or businesses or bank accounts. Legacy is the ripple effect of your alignment. Before them, chaos, confusion, cycles of trauma, silence, shame, poverty, pain. Because the enemy knew if you ever aligned, the curse would break. They speak with more light. They open up. They ask deeper questions. You're building a vibrational altar they'll one day stand on, even if they never know your name. That's what chosen ones do. They plant spiritual seeds for forests they'll never walk through, and they do it with joy. They become more curious about their soul, their power, their divine identity. That's not random. That's legacy in motion. If you ever woke up to your divine nature, it wouldn't just be your life that changed. It would be all of them, past, present, and future. You're not fighting for one lifetime. You're rewriting the story of 1,000. You'll still have days when it feels like too much, but they said yes. They listened. They followed. They aligned. And because of that, their frequency still moves through time. You'll still have moments of doubt. You'll still be tempted to go back to what's familiar. Don't underestimate the impact of small choices. Legacy is built moment by moment. It's not loud. It's not always visible, but it's always holy. The same way trauma can be passed down, so can peace. So can clarity. So can power. When you upgrade your frequency, you upgrade the blueprint for everyone connected to you. The ones watching quietly, waiting for permission to begin their own journey. Not in pride, but in purpose. Walk in peace. Speak with clarity. Move with grace. Because your glow is not just light, it's a lighthouse. It's guiding others through the dark. You are becoming a pillar, a signpost, a spark. You are leading people home to themselves. And that blueprint becomes easier to access for every soul that follows. Every time you pray instead of panic, rest instead of rush, bless instead of curse, you're writing history in the spirit. Your job isn't to convince the myths, to become the example. And as you rise, some of them will rise too. Some will awaken years from now and remember something you said, something you did, something they felt in your presence, and it will spark them. That's legacy. But remember this, the version of you that used to survive was never meant to lead. The version of you that's rising now, that's the legacy builder. Between the pain of your ancestors and the promise of your descendants, we'll talk about what life looks like when the blocks are gone, when the gifts are flowing, when your purpose is clear, and how to stay rooted in this new way of being as you continue to rise in power, love, and divine connection. And every time you choose alignment, you strengthen that bridge. Every clean decision becomes a plank of sacred wood. Every elevated thought becomes spiritual mortar. And before long, a divine structure stands where there was once only rubble. But after them, clarity, healing, wholeness, divine remembrance. That's you. You are the axis upon which your entire family line is pivoting. How the silence was broken, how the gifts returned, how the spirit reawakened in your bloodline, because you chose to remember. They may not know the details, they may not know the battles you fought, but they'll feel the difference. They'll walk in the freedom you've paid for. When a chosen one rises and stays aligned, they shift their entire bloodline. They become the node, the spiritual turning point. This is why your battle has been so hard. This is why the attacks felt relentless. And the beauty of it is this: you don't have to save everyone. You just have to say yes to your own alignment. Your energy will do the rest. Every time you speak truth, you give others permission to do the same. Every time you forgive, love, release, and rise you create space in the field for someone else to do so more easily. That's how spiritual timelines work. You become a frequency transmitter, and your field begins to awaken those around you without force, without pressure, just presence. Every time you heal, you clear the way for others. You might notice that your children, nieces, nephews, or even strangers begin to behave differently around you. And get this, some of the people who will benefit from your Lighthaven tea even been born yet. You're anchoring something eternal. You are the bridge between what was and what can be. This is holy work, and it's also deeply human work. The spiritual giants of old, those prophets, healers, seers, mystics, they weren't perfect. They had doubts, they had trials. That's what you're stepping into. One day, someone will tell the story of how the cycle ended with you, and that freedom will have your fingerprints all over it. So don't get discouraged when progress feels slow, and the ripple never stops. Your alignment also creates spiritual inheritance, energetic blessings that flow through your line like water. It doesn't matter if your family doesn't understand right now. They don't need to. And not just for your family, but for your spiritual family, the ones you meet along the path, the souls who resonate with your voice. So stand tall in your alignment. In the final part, we'll bring everything together. Your legacy is already unfolding. This is the moment you've been prepared for, not just through this message, but through every trial, every awakening, every time you chose alignment over chaos, clarity over confusion, spirit over survival. And where once there was noise, there is now stillness. Where once there was disconnection, there is now communion. You are reconnected to God, to your divine mission, to the deep truth of who you really are. You've come to the edge of an old life, and standing here now, you realize you're not the same. The fog is lifting. Your body feels lighter. Your energy is clearer. Your intuition is louder. The veil has thinned. People come to you not just for advice, but for peace. This is what happens when the food, the energy, the habits, the relationships that once dimmed your light are finally gone. You become undeniable. You walk into rooms and raise the vibration just by being. You pray and things shift. You touch and things heal. You speak and people listen, not because of your volume, but because of your vibration. Your body becomes a tuned instrument, sensitive, wise, alert. You no longer eat just for taste or tradition, but for elevation. You attract souls who speak your frequency. You no longer need to beg for love or understanding. Divine alignment handles that for you. You love deeper, but from fullness, not from lack. You're no longer chasing connection. You're radiating it. You understand now that every food is information. Every substance carries a message, and you only allow in what speaks life to your cells, your spirit, your soul. And that reconnection changes everything. In fact, you crave it, because in silence, you hear God more clearly. You receive instruction. You feel presence. You move from needing constant stimulation to valuing sacred stillness. You become friends with your own spirit, present, ready. All you have to do is ask. Stay tuned, stay open, stay clean, because now, life no longer happens to you. It begins to move through you. Remember what it feels like to be free, to feel your full power, to be in full divine alignment. The signs, the synchronicities, the divine nudges, certainly, they're everywhere. Your dreams become more vivid, prophetic even, not because you're manipulating life, but because you're finally in harmony with it. What once felt random now feels divinely orchestrated. You realize that your entire life has been training. Every heartbreak, every lesson, every detour, it all had a purpose. It all brought you here. You feel the presence of your guides more clearly. You don't second guess yourself like you used to. You know, a threshold. And now, you know exactly how to keep that light burning brighter than ever. Not in the intellectual sense, but in the spiritual, knowing that resonates in your bones. And let your life be a clear, radiant, divine signal. Because you said yes to healing, to clarity, to divine connection. And that yes carries weight. That yes carries authority. That yes carries legacy. You speak, and it happens. You think, and it begins to align. This is what happens when a chosen one returns to their divine frequency. And every level will require new levels of integrity, stillness, obedience, and discernment. But you're ready. You've been prepared for this. You're becoming a vessel, a portal, a clear channel for divine frequency to flow through. Your very presence becomes an atmosphere where others awaken. Your home becomes a sanctuary. Your voice becomes medicine. You are walking alignment. You don't just receive divine downloads, you'll begin to live them. You carry answers, you'll become the answer. This is spiritual maturity. This is spiritual leadership. And you're not just receiving this transformation for you, and you begin to see the deeper beauty in everything. Food becomes worship, every bite, an offering of life force. You bless what you consume, and it responds. Silence becomes sacred. You no longer fear being alone with yourself. Your relationships deepen. You stop tolerating energetic chaos. And most importantly, your mission becomes clear. All the scattered gifts, ideas, passions, and insights you once had suddenly fit together. You now know who you are. You are chosen, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you were willing to remember, because you answered the call. But this isn't the end of your journey. It's a beginning. From here, you'll be called into new levels of service, new expressions of power, new dimensions of truth, and you won't be alone. Heaven walks with you now more closely than ever. Your higher self, your guides, your angels, they are active. And when it gets quiet, when the old temptations whisper, when your flesh wants to fall back, remember this moment. You don't need to strive anymore. You simply need to stay aligned, stay aware, stay connected. Every day, ask, does this elevate or diminish my frequency? Does this bring me closer to divine connection or further away? Is this food, this person, this habit feeding my spirit or draining it? Let your answers guide you. Let alignment be your compass. Let your light be your legacy. You are a chosen one. You are a light in the world. So go, walk boldly, speak truthfully, live fully, that the chosen have awakened.